What makes a speedrun fast? On the surface, it appears that simply getting from point A to point B in the chosen game as quickly as possible is all that you would need. But what happens when you're given the legendary speedrun in Super Metroid, a game with 100 items to collect, and options to collect nearly all of them in any order you choose? How can you possibly know that your point A to B is the fastest option when your point B can be one of several choices of items to obtain? Maybe some of those items aren't worth picking up at all. With so many possible items to get, the game provides multiple routing possibilities. Is the item loadout that speedrunners currently grab in any percent really the fastest option available? Let's look at the route and see why it picks up the items that it does, and if any items can be added to or skipped entirely from the route. As a brief history lesson, speedruns used to play the game in the intended boss order, fighting Kraid, then Phantoon, then Dragon, then Ridley. This held true until August of 2014, where runner Behemoth unveiled an alternate route he and others had been working on, switching Phantoon to the first boss, Ridley to the second, Kraid third, and Dragon last. This new boss order saves time on routing alone, cutting out multiple rooms and backtracking that was required for the Kraid first boss order, and is the current route used in the speedrun today. This any percent route has had 12 years to have the item loadout be theorized for optimizations, but it hasn't really changed at all since the new boss order was introduced. Perhaps there's some routing improvement here that we missed. We do have a lot more tools to analyze the game than before. There must be some combination of the 100 items in the game that's faster than the set runners currently pick up. Let's look at what's grabbed and see if there's any loadout that could be faster. It would be best if I show what the final loadout is first, and then retroactively explain why these are the items taken into the endgame. There's 3 energy tanks providing an extra 100 health each, resulting in 300 extra health capacity. 3 to 4 normal missile packs depending on player preference for 15 to 20 normal missiles total. 2 super missile packs for 10 supers total, and a power bomb pack. Looking at the possible Samus upgrades, we pick up Morph Ball, Bombs, Charge, Ice, Wave, and Spacer for the beam upgrades, High Jump, Speed Booster, and Varia and Gravity as the suit upgrades. That's 19 to 20 items total depending on if you want the extra normal missile pack. Maybe some of these can be skipped and be faster, or maybe we can pick up some extra items to make the route faster. I'll categorize them to show what we need and why. I'll assume the boss order stays the same for most of these, unless skipping an item causes a boss reroute, which would be interesting to note. First, there's the progression lock items. These items will always be required no matter what you do unless you use major glitches, which is its own separate speedrunning category. Morph is required, as after it's grabbed is when the planet switches from desolate to alive, and it's needed to get through one-tile gaps, like this one on the way to the bomb upgrade. Bombs absolutely cannot be skipped. They're needed to break these blocks to get to the rest of the game. The entrance to the bomb door is also normal missile locked, which can be opened with either 5 normal missiles or 1 super missile. But with no access to any super missiles at this point, 1 normal missile pack gets classified as a progression lock item. After grabbing bombs, the game opens up a little bit, but we're still limited to staying in the Brinstar area until we get super missiles to open this door. The game intends you to fight Spore Spawn for this pack, but we just grab this one instead with a Mock Ball, conserving running speed while in Morph to make it under these gates. At this point the game opens up a lot. We can go almost anywhere we want, but there's still one more progression lock item needed to be grabbed in Power Bombs. These are needed for the door lock into Wrecked Ship, and the fastest pack to pick up is this one in Red Brinstar. One more item to note is this missile pack at the moat. There's no way to avoid it without going out of your way to do so. You need access to the ledge it sits on to make it over the water quickly, so I'll classify this as pseudo required for our purposes in any percent. But just know you could skip it if you wanted to spend a minute trying to go over it. Those are all the items for the hard progression locks to make it into the endgame. You will always need those no matter what combination of other items you pick up. But there's still some requirements of items needed not to get into the endgame, but to make it out and be capable of finishing. The first hurdle is this wall called a Zebetite, named that way because it's a stalactite on planet Zebes. We either need enough ammo to shoot them all down, they're only vulnerable to normal and super missiles, or find another way to make it through. Zebatites are a special type of enemy that doesn't respawn upon leaving and re-entering the room, so as long as you have the capacity to clear one, you can leave the room, do a missile refill at this station a few rooms back, and come back and remove another. Loop until all are gone. Super missiles aren't refilled at the station, so you'll need enough normals to kill a Zebatite, which is 15. We don't have to worry about this at all though, because there is another way to make it through. Doing the Zeb skip, which requires either ice or speed booster. When colliding with a frozen enemy and a wall, the game prioritizes placing Samus in the enemy, meaning you can move a pixel through the wall by having a frozen enemy at the right position, which just so happens to be where this Rinka spawns. By freezing it and brushing against the wall, Samus will be placed one pixel into the wall and collide with the Zebatite itself, which is classified as an enemy. It's an enemy that does 0 damage to you, and has similar properties to other enemies in the game that act as walls. And the one thing they all have in common is that if you can find a way past the initial collision wall, you can walk through them freely. The 1 pixel gained from clipping into this ice enemy is all that's needed to clear the wall collision on the Zebatite, meaning you can just walk through it. And because the first Zebatite was never destroyed, the sequential Zebatites do not spawn. I don't know why Speed Booster works, you don't even need a Rinka for it. Regardless, in any percent we're going to be using ice for the Zeb skip. Even with the Zebatites being irrelevant, there is still a missile requirement for Mother Brain herself. She's surrounded in this glass prison, which can only be affected by normal missiles and super missiles. You need 6 shots of either to break the glass and start dealing damage to the brain, which has 3000 health. You need to both deplete her health bar to 0 on top of fully breaking the glass, which takes an additional 12 shots after making the initial hole. That's 18 shots total just for the glass, meaning that the minimum amount of missile and super packs required is 4 of any combination, on top of needing enough damage output to deal 3000. Funnily enough, if you enter Torian and save after the Metroid sequence without having the missiles to break the glass and beat Mother Brain, you soft lock. This door becomes locked after the Super Metroid sequence, and with not enough missiles to beat the game, you're stuck in Torian forever. Regardless, this is where our first potential target for a loadout change happens. What is the best missile loadout to break Mother Brain's glass and defeat her? Remember, our minimal loadout from progression locks has 2 normals and 1 super missile pack. Immediately, any loadout that has only 1 normal does not have to be considered. Also, we really want to avoid going back for a missile refill. There's 2 normal locked pink doors and an eye door on the way to Mother Brain. In low percent, where the goal is to beat the game with as little items as possible, they normal the first door, then normal the eye door before going back for a refill. This is required in low percent to skip a missile pack, but we're doing any percent, and there's no scenario where doubling back for the missile refill will save time over picking up extra ammo packs. We use supers on the door locks, which are this normal locked door, this eye door, and this normal locked door. Each super does 300 damage, while each normal does 100. It takes 5 normals to open a pink normal locked door, therefore, using normals instead of supers loses us 200 damage worth of ammo, on top of being slower to open the doors themselves. For the eye door, it takes 3 normals, so we don't lose any potential damage by using normals on the eye door, but that takes 3 shots that need to be spaced out versus a single super that defeats it in 1 shot. There's no reason to not be supering these doors unless you intend to go back to the refill station, which we have no desire to do. Any loadout that we have for the endgame has to consider that it will be down 3 supers from its max capacity entering Mother Brain's room. With that in mind, the possible minimal missile loadouts, denoted by normals followed by supers, are 30 and 5, 15 and 10, which is currently used in any percent, and 10 and 15. 10 normals and 15 supers has a lot more depth to it than 30 and 5, so I'll explain why 30 and 5 is slower than 15 and 10 first, and circle back to 10 and 15 later. 15 and 10 grabs the extra normal missile pack here in Brinstar, and this super missile pack in Wreck Ship. The normal missile pack is essentially free to pick up except for the item fanfare. Anytime you pick up an item, the item fanfare cutscene plays, which takes roughly 6.5 seconds to finish. If you're maximizing for in-game time, shown as your completion during the ending cutscene, you don't have to worry about fanfare at all, since the in-game timer pauses during fanfares, elevator cutscenes, door transitions, and being in the pause menu. We're grabbing these normals since they're useful during the Phantoon fight, and they're really not that far out of our path. The super missile pack grabbed is this one in Wreck Ship on the way to Gravity Suit. Getting this super pack is around a 14-second detour, most of which is coming from the fanfare cutscene, along with the room transition when entering and exiting a door, which takes roughly 3 seconds per transition for 6 seconds total. If you do some math, you'll quickly realize why 30 normals would be slower in comparison without taking into account anything else. If it takes 14 seconds to grab this super pack, that means that grabbing the 3 extra normal packs would have to be faster than 14 seconds, which physically cannot happen due to the fanfare cutscene for each missile pack. Even if the game placed them right in front of you on your path, you'd have to slog through 3 fanfares, which would take 19.5 seconds, 5.5 seconds more than 14. In fact, there's a missile pack that is directly on your path in the game currently, and some speedrunners straight up choose to jump over it to avoid the fanfare cutscene. This is where the player preference of getting an extra missile pack comes from. The extra ammo gotten here has useful utility throughout the run, and it increases the odds you make it through Tori and Metroid rooms by about 1.2 times, since you rely on the Metroids to drop enough ammo so you can break Mother Brain's glass. You can never go above your ammo capacity set by how many packs of each missile you get, so that's why we don't just farm enemies for infinite ammo. The extra missile pack also gives you leeway on breaking the glass itself, as these turrets can shoot a little pea shot that can block your missiles. It takes 15 normals and 7 supers to break the glass and defeat Mother Brain, which is your exact ammo count entering with 15 and 10. If a single shot is blocked by the turret, that's run over. You're soft locked. 20 and 10 lets you just power through the turret shot if it blocks you. You can try to be careful and wait for the turret to shoot and have its projectile finish, but it can still snipe you. So the decision to grab the extra missile pack is up to the one playing it and if they're feeling lucky or not. Now that you have an idea on the item fanfare and door transition times, it'll be easier to understand the nuances behind the 10 and 15 ammo loadout. Let's see what would happen if a normal pack were traded for a super pack just straight up. Like, let's just say the normals at the mode are supers instead, so we can see what a detour for the extra super pack would need to accomplish for it to be faster. Sticking with the glass Mother Brain, the time difference is pretty negligible. The extra supers give us extra damage, but now the limiter is the 18 shots needed to break the glass, instead of Mother Brain's health. You do get to enter the glass enclosure though, which is pretty cool. You also save a little bit on the next phase of Mother Brain. It's a cycle-based fight, so the extra supers don't really matter unless they allow us to move up a cycle, but that most certainly can happen. Basically, when Mother Brain enters the red beam phase of the fight at 25% of her health remaining, she starts clapping red beams at Samus. All you need to know is that these happen in roughly 4-second intervals. And if she red beams at 0 health, you still have to wait for that interval to finish for her to do her next action. This includes her moving on to the next phase of the fight. In theory, the extra supers could let you steal a cycle for 4 seconds of time save. You could also just fire the supers before the red beam phase. It saves less than high rolling a cycle skip, but it would give you a more consistent 1.5 second save. I'll be generous and give it 4 seconds for our calculations. The only other major area that the extra supers could save time on is the Ridley fight, which is actually the main reason why extra supers would be considered. Super missiles do double damage against Ridley, so what would the fight look like with an extra super pack? Entering Ridley with the extra supers, the max amount of time you could theoretically save is around 8 seconds. I was able to get it down to 7.5. Remember we traded a normal pack for the supers, so we lost a little bit of damage output in that regard, but gained a massive amount by having double damage supers. So yeah, do a clean trade of a normal missile pack for a super one and it would save time. Adding up the time save, you'd trade out a normal missile fanfare for a super one, so those cancel out, and then you would save tentatively around 12 seconds total. To make calculations easier, I will include the fanfare time saved from skipping the normal pack from the gold time, and say that the goal time for the entire detour for the extra super pack to save anything is 18 seconds. The problem is that any extra super packs are too far out of the way. The only real candidates are this one in Brinstar, this one in a room adjacent to the supers that we already grab in Wrecked Ship, and this one in Meridia. The only reason the Meridia one would be considered is because there's no door transitions, as we're entering this room regardless of if we're picking up the supers or not. But it's after Ridley, so it's not a real option. This one is actually the intended supers you should have gotten from defeating Spore Spawn, but since we already have the supers, we can just enter from the back door and pick them up. This one takes longer than the Wrecked Ship one, however, due to the room being longer, requiring laying normal bombs to get into, and the 2 extra door transitions on the way in and out. The second Wrecked Ship super pack seems good. You even get reimbursed your power bombs that you use to make the room go fast, but it's not good enough. I was only able to get this detour to take 26 seconds total. And even if you optimize my movement to the maximum, there's no way you can squeeze out another 8 seconds out of it to reach the goal time of an 18-second detour. The missile loadout is actually the most set in stone part of the ammo loadout here. Pretty much anyone who's played the game at a high level has thought, hey, wouldn't extra supers be good on Ridley? And tested it independently of each other. We've all come to the same conclusion, that picking up extra supers is slower. And with that, we can move on to the next item set required for the endgame. 3 E-Tanks and Varia Suit. Surely speedrunners are good enough at the game that they can beat it without extra health. Yeah, we could do it hitless, I guess, but that would just be slower. We want extra health to tank damage intentionally, which is used in a lot of places to gain invincibility frames and clear rooms quicker. The lower our max health, the fewer of these we can take. Shine Sparking, which is gained by having the Speed Booster item, also consumes health. Having enough health to Shine Spark for this room in Meridia would make the extra health packs worth it by itself, saving roughly 10 seconds each trip. Shine Sparks also make reserve tanks unviable. Even though they give you the same amount of health as an E-Tank, the health and reserves aren't used in the Shine Spark itself. You just stop when you reach 29 in your main energy. Actually, maybe picking up an extra E-Tank would be faster to allow for more Shine Sparks and damage boosting. But I honestly can't think of enough rooms for it to be useful to even really consider it. The extra health also prevents us from being put into the health bomb state, where enemies only drop health instead of the ammo we need when Samus's health reaches below 30. The farms taken in the game are done with the knowledge that the enemies will actually drop what we want, rather than health. We could work around picking up one less E-Tank, but that would result in the game being unbeatable. Using health for movement is just a soft limit. The real reason why E-Tanks are a hard limit is once again Mother Brain. Not the glass this time, but Dino Mother Brain, or as we call her, Mother Brain 2. Once Mother Brain 2's health hits 0, she charges her Rainbow Beam, which is undodgeable and deals 600 damage. But can anyone tell the difference between these two clips and why one survives only entering with 300 health and the other perishes? I'll tell you right now, there's no visual difference. The only change is that the one that survived has Varia obtained and equipped, which causes the Rainbow Beam to do half damage. This is why you'll see runners picking up Varia even though they already have the Gravity Suit. Gravity Suit does almost everything Varia does but better. Both provide shielding in heated rooms, but Gravity reduces all incoming damage by 75% rather than Varia's 50%. And it gives you free movement in water sections. The only thing Gravity doesn't have is the 50% reduction from this single attack on Mother Brain. So, Varia is picked up to survive the Rainbow Beam, but it's not actually required. Doing some math again, you have 2 options to get the needed health to survive the Rainbow Beam. Either get 6 E-Tanks, or get 3 E-Tanks as well as Varia. But similar to the missile routing, the additional fanfares from the 3 extra E-Tanks would immediately put it out of contention for being faster. It's a 19-second detour for Varia, and 3 extra items of any kind will result in 19.5 seconds of fanfare. Maybe we could use the extra health capacity for Shine Sparks and damage boosts in some places, but we would need 3 additional E-Tanks that are pretty much directly on our path already, like this one in Brinstar and this one in Norfair. We already take a little detour to grab the final 3rd E-Tank in Meridia. Any other E-Tank or reserve is out of the question. All of them except for one require you to go through a door, meaning that you need to watch the 3-second door transition twice for 6 additional seconds total. The only E-tank that isn't behind a door takes too long to get into and out of this cubby. This means we can comfortably classify Varia as the fastest option for meeting the minimal health requirement. With that, we almost have a loadout that can technically beat the game, but we still need a way to do damage to bosses who are mostly only vulnerable to missiles, supers, and charge beam. So obviously we'll pick up charge. It's pretty close on the path out of Brinstar anyway, and provides an infinite damage source. Except it's technically not required. You would just have to get a lot of ammo. Kraid can be beaten with the minimal amount of ammo that we already have, and both Phantoon and Dragon can drop ammo during their fights, so charge isn't needed for either of those. On Dragon we don't even have to use ammo since she takes damage from Shine Sparks. The issue is Motherbrain and Ridley, neither of which drop any ammo mid-fight, meaning you'd need enough ammo in missiles and supers to defeat both of them if you want to skip charge. That's going to be a lot of fanfares and a lot of detours to even consider. You'd need to end up with something like 120 normals and 20 supers. Completely unreasonable. But what if you could obtain this ammo count without the fanfare of picking up items? Maybe you could get, I don't know, 65,000 supers and that would help. I'll probably never get another opportunity to talk about this. This is Chargeless. By activating a Crystal Flash, the frame Dragon grabs you. The inputs you do to escape the grab now overlap with the decreasing counter on your ammo provided by the Crystal Flash. This means you can make your missile count go below 0, and when that number goes below 0, it wraps around to its maximum amount, which is 65,535. Do this to your super missiles and you can melt Ridley and Motherbrain. Setting this up takes a lot, but it would let us skip all 4 beam upgrades. Issue number 1 is that instead, you need to pick up 2 extra power bomb packs so that you meet the requirements to do a Crystal Flash in the first place. It requires 10 of each of missiles, supers, and power bombs to activate. You might think that you'd only need 1 extra power bomb pack then to have the 10 power bombs total, but to initiate a Crystal Flash, you need to lay a power bomb. Which means that starting a Crystal Flash requires you to have at least 11 available. You could lay a power bomb, destroy a farmable goop, have that goop drop a power bomb, pick it up, and then get to the correct pixel position for the Crystal Flash and have it still work? Have fun trying that. It has actually been done by a human before, using an RNG manipulation method that takes too long to set up for it to save time over just picking up the 3rd power bomb pack. But that method did decrease the amount of total items needed to beat the game from 14 to 13. An absolutely insane accomplishment. I'll link some videos to runner KingOfTheHill in the description, who did it in real time, as well as his discussion with Shiny Zenny on how it was possible. For any percent though, we'd need to traverse for the additional power bomb packs, losing time. Underflowing Dragon would also change the boss order, so we'd put her before Ridley. But with that boss order, making it through Meridia is a bit more tricky. This room in Meridia locks us from getting to Dragon unless we either have Ice Beam or Speed Booster, due to this wall that can only be broken with Speed Booster. Ice would let us clip through, but we'd rather not go down the Norfair elevator just to come right back up. Speed Booster is also nestled in Norfair, so same issue applies. Looping back to Meridia after picking it up is too slow. We would need one of them, but instead we can skip both by faking Speed Booster with a glitch. On an elevator, if you Crystal Flash the correct frame you start going down it, the game gives you what we call a spike suit. It's essentially a one-time use Shine Spark that you can use anywhere at any time, and we'd use it to get through these speed lock blocks. The setup is double frame perfect, and if you do it too early, this happens and your game freezes, which is pretty fun. Not what we're looking for, but fun. It's pretty simple to make it to Dragon from this point, but now it's going to take way too much time to set up the underflow for it to be faster than the current any percent route. Which is disappointing. I would have loved to have 3 frame perfect tricks in mid-game that sounds consistent and fun. To set up the underflow, you need to put yourself in the permagoose state, which is done by getting gooped by Dragon, and then having that goop be destroyed on that same frame it touched you. This is necessary since Dragon only tries to grab you when you're in the gooed state. And if you try to use a normal goo, when the powerbomb goes off for the Crystal Flash initiation, it breaks the goop and Dragon retreats without grabbing you. Under Permagoo, you wait for Dragon to do another goop phase, and when she comes on screen, she'll see that you're in the gooed state from Permagoo and try to grab you immediately. At this point, you lay a frame-perfect powerbomb, and if done correctly, you get functionally infinite ammo. This takes a lot of setup, and even though we successfully underflowed, the Permagoo state remains. This applies a speed debuff, and it needs to be removed as soon as possible, which is only done with either dying or saving and resetting the game. All in all, this takes way too much time for what it gets you, being faster Mother Brain and Ridley fights, and skipping beam upgrades. Runner Overfiend created the documentation for setting this up, as well as its viability in any percent. He's also the master of low percent Chargeless, and I'll link his current run and write-up in the description. When testing, he found underflow to be significantly slower than what is done in the current any percent route. And since he's the one that put all the time in, it's smart to believe him. Picking up Charge as an infinite damage source is faster than both getting the extra ammo to skip it, as well as underflowing ammo, so it gets classified as the best option available. Let's quickly go over the other beam upgrades. Ice is non-negotiable. It's going to pay for itself in Torian by being able to freeze the Metroids, making them vulnerable to supers. The only other way to kill the Metroids is with power bombs, and if we had an extra pack, skipping Ice might be a little faster, but we only have one pack, and you're not making it through 4 Metroid rooms with only one powerbomb pack. Defeating the Metroids with power bombs only make them drop 1 item to pick up instead of the 5 to 6 when using supers, and we kinda need to farm these guys for ammo and health. Also, since it takes 3 power bombs per Metroid room, you need to get those power bombs replenished through Metroid drop chances. You need to hit a 4% double power bomb drop in every room, with one of them being a triple power bomb drop. The odds of this happening are so low, it's not worth entertaining. It's around 1 in half a million. Ice also provides extra damage on our beam for boss fights, which is why Wave and Spazer are picked up as well. You can shoot charge shots at a rate of around 1 per second, and picking up Wave and Spazer provide enough extra damage to save 40 shots on Mother Brain alone. This means that if they can be picked up in under 40 seconds, they pay for themselves in one single boss fight, without even considering the extra utility they provide. It takes 22 seconds to pick up Spazer and 33 to pick up Wave. And since any extra damage source will take an equivalent, if not longer detour, getting these beam upgrades are the fastest option for damage. Plasma Beam is skipped since it's way too far out of the way to grab. You'd need to get it in under a minute to consider it. It would let you save an additional 40 shots on Mother Brain, as well as letting you skip Spazer, since you can't have both Spazer and Plasma equipped at the same time, under normal circumstances. By the time you even exit the Plasma Room, your minute is up, and you still have a long way to go to get out of Meridia. Even if you took the Sandy Meridia exit, it's still too many extra rooms to traverse to be worth the detour. So I'll put the beams into damage output and say that it's optimal to grab the 3 discussed: Ice, Wave, and Spazer. The only other items in the run that are picked up I will classify as movement enhancers. These are High Jump, Speed Booster, and Gravity Suit. Is there any way these can be skipped to save time? Let's start with Speed Booster. And if you think an item called Speed Booster would be worth skipping in a speed run, then you are thinking out of the box. I like you. It's a little over a 50-second detour for Speed Booster. Not insignificant, but the question isn't if getting Speed Booster is worth it, it's how early does it pay for itself. Remember, there are blocks in the game that require Speed Booster to break, and although there are ways around them, it's certainly slower than just holding a direction and going through them. Looking at only the major time saves that Speed Booster facilitates, you get to Spark up this room to lower Norfair, break these pillars with a Shine Spark, defeat these guys with a Shine Spark for lag reduction and farms, one-shot the metal pirates who need to be defeated to unlock the door, mock ball through these blocks, save 5 seconds in this crate hallway on the way in, save 5 seconds in the crate hallway on the way out, Shine Spark in this massive room, break these speed blocks on the way to Dragon, Shine Spark through this room, deal massive damage to Dragon, Shine Spark out of this room, break this speed block wall, hold left for like 4 rooms saving a million time, Shine Spark in the escape, Shine Spark in the escape again, and have invulnerability to the steam on the way to the ship. And that's just some of the major stuff. Speed Booster is way too good to skip. On to Gravity Suit. One of the main reasons the boss order places Phantoon first is in order to get Gravity. It takes around 1.5 minutes to pick up, and its main purpose is for Meridia, because without it, getting through Meridia takes a long time to not only prepare to actually be capable of getting through, but also to traverse the underwater area in general. It easily pays for itself in Meridia. Plus the 75% damage reduction is useful for tanking intentional damage. If you're going to be skipping Gravity, you might as well do a different boss order that places Phantoon last. That's currently out of scope for this video, but I am figuring out that route for fun, so watch out for that if I ever get around to it. For the boss order that puts Phantoon first, you will always be picking up Gravity. I guess while we're in Meridia, Space Jump is skipped since it doesn't really do anything at the point you'd pick it up. It's really only useful in sections where you'd like to jump across a big room and keep your speed, of which there's not enough of those rooms to traverse by the time you would have Space Jump. The last movement item is High Jump, and this one's actually kind of interesting. It takes around 25 seconds to pick up. Surely an item that just lets you jump higher isn't worth the detour when we have other ways to gain height. The thing is, the way High Jump works is that it increases your initial vertical speed when you jump, rather than, say, increasing the max height of your jump. Increasing vertical speed results in a higher max height, but it's an important distinction, as it means that anytime you jump, because your initial vertical velocity is faster, you get to climb vertical sections faster than if you didn't have High Jump. This property applies to wall jumping as well, which is important for hitting this Shine Spark in Meridia, as you'd need to initiate the Shine Spark earlier, resulting in not having enough height to clear this ledge and only getting through half the room. Skipping High Jump has a lot more involved in it than the other movement items. With those, you can see them pay for themselves, and as soon as they either do or don't, you can determine whether it's worth picking up or skipping. With Gravity, it's obvious to see that it will save time, and there's no time lost anywhere by having it equipped. With Speed Booster, the small section where having it unequipped saves time is fully outclassed by the sections where it is equipped. With High Jump, it's not so clear. In every section where you have to climb up, not having High Jump is going to lose time. But in some rooms, having the vertical speed boost from High Jump makes you bonk your head on the ceiling, meaning you don't get as much horizontal movement in the air as you do without it equipped. This has some applications in some rooms, and the ones off the top of my head are this one in Lower Norfair and this one in Torian. There's a lot of rooms that need to be tested, and doing so might blow up runners' muscle memory if they attempt to do it too much. But since I'm not actively doing attempts right now, I'll do a little excursion and see what I can find. If I lose 40 total seconds across random rooms, I'll determine High Jump to be worth picking up for sure. After doing calculations, it gets really close to be worth looking into. But I lost 40 seconds of movement by the time I got to the post-Dragon room. There's some nasty rooms you'd have to do as well, such as this bomb jump which I was incapable of doing. It got kind of close. There's barely any rooms left that you have to move upward with jumping, but every vertical room traversed with High Jump equipped saves anywhere from 1 to 4 seconds, and they compound to make High Jump worth picking up. Personally, I think if any item has a chance to be routed out, it's High Jump, since there's so many unknowns of what can be saved by having it removed from your loadout. But also, I don't believe there's enough of a difference there to make up for having slower jumping speed, meaning that High Jump is optimal. The only other items in the game to consider are Spring Ball, Grapple Beam, and X-Ray. Spring Ball and Grapple Beam are movement items that are way too out of the way to consider. Spring Ball needs you to visit and wait for Shack Tool, and Grapple needs you to beat Crocomire, both taking an eternity. And the items don't really do much. Grapple is only useful if you don't have gravity, but it takes like 3 minutes to grab. And Spring Ball would only be useful in a handful of rooms, and it also takes forever to grab. X-Ray can only save time by being a glitch machine, and since any percent is no major glitches, we don't have to worry about it. Maybe there's some cool route that uses X-ray out there that's faster than the current any percent, but I'm an X-ray hater, so I'm not going to look into it. But I do think it would be cool to see if it comes to fruition. And that's actually every relevant item. Yeah, there's 100 items, but most of them are ammo upgrades. Remember, people choose to skip picking up normal missiles that are directly on their path because it's slower to do so. Therefore, any other normal packs in the game would also not be worth picking up. The fastest possible super missile packs were also discussed and determined to be unviable, so the slower ones by the transitive property would also be unviable. The only other option is an additional power bomb pack, which seems like it would do nothing, but it is actually the only proven time save that can happen from a routing standpoint. It's not gonna happen in an actual run though, and you can look at my previous video to see how it's faster and why it's not gonna actually happen in a run. We've explored all the realistic possibilities of item reroutes, and it seems like the current loadout is pretty unbreakable. Not to say there's a 0% chance of it ever changing. You never know what you don't know, and there could be something that we've been missing for 12 years. But the current route is looking to be as optimized as it can be, barring the aforementioned extra power bomb pickup. Instead of looking strictly at an item loadout reroute, the other option would be a boss reroute. But of all 24 boss order possibilities, the order of Phantoon, Ridley, Kraid, Dragon has come out on top. But again, you can never know what you don't know. There might be something there, and I plan to explore it in the future. Only if this video does well though, I spent way too much time on it. I had to do a lot of calculations and footage recording to get it done, so hopefully you enjoyed it. As long as I'm not getting paid for creative works, I'm just gonna cycle through mediums as I feel motivated by each. If you don't hear from me in a month, I'm probably developing my game, or drawing. Not Yu-Gi-Oh anymore though, I hit Master 1. I don't want Google to get free money from this video. I need you to subscribe so that way I meet the threshold for YouTube to actually start paying me. You don't want Google to profit from free labor, do ya? If you'd like some lower effort stuff that I can pump out more frequently, just leave a comment and I'll see what I can do. Also, if you'd like to support me making more videos financially, tell me and I might set something up. I think having a sticker raffle from Ko-fi might be fun, but I'm not going to set up anything without interest. Bye bye!